What's going on, guys? Welcome to another Doctor Who Classic Review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 4th Doctor Tom Baker story, Robot. This is the first story for Tom Baker as the 4th Doctor, which means it's the first story of Season 12. It's kind of a bit of a turning point. I wouldn't say this is necessarily the turning point for the show, in a bit of a different direction, because it doesn't necessarily happen right here, but this is when the 4th Doctor, the longest running Doctor, starts his tenure. So it is a big point in the show, that is for sure. Now, before I get started with this review today, I want to say, yes, I have been away for like almost 2 weeks now, probably pretty much 2 weeks. I've been on holiday, I haven't been able to upload or anything on my holiday. I'm gonna hopefully I don't know when I'm uploading this exactly, but we'll see. I might try and get one up within the next couple of days after uploading this one, just to kind of speed things up a little bit. I might do like 3 in a row within a week, instead of like the usual 2. Like I kind of do 1 a week. So maybe this time we'll have like 2, I guess. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But anyway, let's get on with this review. This is Robot by Terrance Dicks. Mortally weakened by the Spider Queen on Metebelis 3, the Doctor is forced to regenerate. His recuperation is cut short as unit investigate a spate of robberies involving components for a top-secret disintegrator gun. The culprit is quickly identified as a highly sophisticated robot built by Professor Kettlewell, which is being ordered to act against its prime directive. Just how is the robot being used to carry out the sinister agenda of the Scientific Reform Society? And can the Doctor rescue Sarah from the robot's clutches and avert a nuclear war? So a nice interesting kind of robot invasion sort of story there. However, it's not really a robot invasion, because the robot is Earth grown. It's not an alien or anything, it's just someone on Earth has built this robot, and it's kind of killing people and wants to destroy the world, basically. So yeah, it's an interesting story to say the least. But yeah, let's get started with the cast. So Tom Baker is the 4th Doctor. He's really, really good. I think he hits the ball running. Hits the ground running. That's what it is. He hits it on the head, nails it on the head, whatever you want to say. He is really good from the very beginning. He's funny. A lot of doctors, most doctors, have they're a little bit more silly and weird when they first regenerate, because I don't know, it's just something with the post-regeneration. It kind of makes them go a bit loopy. It tends to do it with pretty much every Doctor. They always have a weird side effect. And I mean, Tom Baker's Doctor is all round quite silly at times, but even more so in this one, and he just hits it on the head really well. He does such a good job. He does the comedy really well. His acting is amazing. He has some great lines. Altogether, there's nothing at all to say about Tom Baker here. He's so good straight away in the role. Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, also really good. Gets quite a lot to do by herself in this one, actually taking a seat away from the Doctor for most of it, being with the people who created the robot, Professor Kettlewell, and the 2 other people, the director and the director's assistant, and of course a lot of stuff with the robot as well, which is pretty cool. And altogether, yeah, Elizabeth Sladen's really good, and when she is with Tom Baker, she's really, really good. Straight away you can tell that she just has such good chemistry with Tom Baker. They have such great chemistry together, and it's awesome to see. Then we've got Ian Marter as Harry Sullivan. Yeah, this is Harry Sullivan's first appearance, and he's very good here. He gets a decent amount to do, not a whole lot, but a decent amount. And yeah, I think he's decent enough. He'd get written out of the show after this first season, because they actually cast him because they thought the 4th Doctor was going to be an older Doctor. They wanted to have a younger man to kind of do the running about, but of course you got Tom Baker. He can do all the running about and silly stuff, so he does get written out eventually, but I think he's good in this story, and he's pretty much good for his whole stay. I will also mention Nicholas Courtney as Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, who is really good as usual. One of his last main appearances, I mean obviously massive throughout John Pertwee's run, but yeah, this is kind of when he's calming down a bit. He comes in here and he returns in Terror of the Zygons, and then we don't see him for quite a long time, so he's kind of this is his kind of last regular appearance, but yeah, he's really, really good as well. Okay, so on to the good and the bad, starting off with the good. The Doctor acting very strange after regenerating. Like I said, this is a thing that happens with pretty much every Doctor, and I think Tom Baker's Doctor probably some of my favourite post-regeneration silliness, to be honest. I love the stuff where he's like, he's where Harry's telling him, oh, you're not fit, you've got to lay down. And he's like, not fit? Why are you saying I'm not fit? And he starts like running on the spot, and he like karate chops a brick. And there's just some really funny stuff. Just really good funny stuff from Tom Baker there. So that's always awesome. Funny Tom Baker, it's always a good thing. The Doctor choosing a new outfit, this is another one of the funny moments for the Fourth Doctor in this one. He's got to choose an outfit. Every new Doctor has got to choose their new outfit. And he goes into the TARDIS like 4 or 5 times, brings out these ridiculous outfits. He's like a clown at one point, then he's like a king, and like a Viking or something. Just all these absolutely ridiculous outfits. Then he finally gets, the very iconic now, long brown jacket, which he starts, kind of browny burgundy reddy jacket, and the big scarf and the hat, and that's what he decides to go with. He's like, oh, I can try again if you like, but Brigadier's like, no, that's fine, just go with that. It's fine. It's better than a bloody clown or something. So yeah, that whole scene I think is really funny, and I really like it. The K1 robot looks pretty cool. I do quite like the design of the robot. It's not your... it's fairly basic, I suppose, but it's not your really, really basic sort of robot. It's very tall, even from the start. It does grow eventually, but, even taller. But even from the start, it's like 7, maybe 8 foot tall. It's a very, very tall thing. And I like the design of it. Of course, it's all silver. That's kind of your generic robot sort of look. But I like all the red. I like the red at the top, kind of making it look like an exposed sort of brain. I like that. The mouth and the headpiece and all that looks interesting, like this really big fat neck, the big shoulder pads. I think a really interesting looking robot with like the claw hands as well. I really like the design of this robot. I think it looks really cool. The Doctor stopping the countdown just in time. Another really good moment. Yes, it is one of those things where the countdown's going down. Of course he's going to stop it when it's like at 1 second. I think he actually stops it at 2 seconds, which is a bit of a difference. It's usually 1 second. But you knew it was going to happen. As soon as the Doctor gets on the computer, you knew that's what he was going to do right at the last second. But I love it because he's like talking throughout the whole thing, and then he's like, oh, it could be really, really difficult, but then he stops and he's like, but not impossible. And I just really love that moment. It's another standout moment from Tom Baker in this story. It kind of solidifies his Doctor there as well, him as the Doctor. I just really like that. The robot growing in size, like I said before, the robot starts off bigger than an average human, or even your tallest humans, to be honest. But he gets even bigger when he gets upgraded, I suppose, to a giant King Kong robot. A lot of people say this story kind of copies King Kong in a lot of ways. I don't even know if I've seen King Kong, to be honest. But from what I understand, I don't think it really... obviously I can't say this completely because I haven't seen King Kong, but I think they say it mostly because of the giant robot. King Kong's not a robot, but the giant being, going around destroying things. It's a very small part of the story. It only happens in the last part for 5 minutes or so that he's really tall, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, but I really like that moment actually. He looks really cool. Yes, the green screen effect, the CSO doesn't look great, but it's the 1970s, what can you say, what can you do? But I think it's an interesting concept, making him giant. And then on that as well, destroying the robot with Kettlewell's chemical concoction. I think it's really cool because Professor Kettlewell made this robot out of kind of recyclable materials. He didn't want to, destroy the atmosphere, and he was very green in a lot of ways, especially for the 1970s. So he wanted this to be easy to, when he didn't want it anymore, easy to compact down and just dissolve away, basically. So he made a potion, basically, that would melt this stuff down into pretty much nothing. And I think I completely, even though I have seen this story before, by the way, I've seen it a few times before, even then you could still it was kind of obvious that's how they were going to defeat him. So in that aspect, yeah, it's kind of a bit of I completely saw that coming for the ending, but at the same time, I do quite like it. It's something a little bit different to what we're used to, maybe, but yeah, I still quite like it. Onto the bad. There's actually a little bit more bad than I thought. Some of it may be a little bit nitpicky, but to start off with, Professor Kettlewell working with the others kind of felt out of nowhere. It turns out that Professor Kettlewell is actually working with the people of the Science Society thing, and he also is in on this thing of the robots taking over the world and killing everyone. I thought that was a little bit out of place. It just didn't really feel right. In a way, it kind of worked, but at the same time, based on some of his actions and some of the things he did and said earlier on, yes, maybe he was just being very, very good at lying and covering up, but it just didn't feel right to me. It just felt completely randomly thrown in. I didn't really like that personally, especially when eventually he comes back anyway, and they kind of just totally forgive him for what he was doing. I thought that was a little bit kind of, yeah, didn't really like that too much. The robot faints after killing Professor Kettlewell. So Professor Kettlewell built the robot, and I don't know, the robot has some kind of connection to him. I mean, yes, he built him, but it's a robot. It's a very, very technologically advanced robot, especially for the time. But he accidentally kills the professor and basically faints because of it. He's like, oh god, I've killed my master, oh, I've killed him, and he faints. I thought that was a little bit, okay. Bit of a kind of plot device, just to, oh yeah, we need to get through here. Let's just make the robot faint for a bit. Wasn't really the biggest fan of that. And then finally, the robot scale can be a bit off at times. When the robot goes really, really huge, he's walking through the streets, you can see soldiers on the floor shooting at it and stuff like that, and then high shots from above of it looking down on the city and the towns. The scale is completely off a lot of the time. When you see it walking around at ground level with all the soldiers shooting at it, it looks big, but it doesn't look absolutely massive. But then you look at it from another angle and it's just absolutely enormous. The scale was not great. Once again, this is, I suppose, a problem of the time with the green screens and stuff, but yeah, I just think the scale was quite off in a lot of those scenes. So, what rating am I going to give Robot out of 10? I enjoyed the story. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Not quite as high as I was expecting. I mean, I was kind of expecting like an 8. This is probably the third, maybe even the fourth time I've seen this story. I was expecting to put it at about an 8 out of 10. Well, I've given it 7.5, so it's definitely not far off at all. I just didn't feel like it was quite there for an 8. I felt like a 7.5 worked a bit better for it, because there were a few things wrong with this story that I wasn't a big fan of. A few more than I really expected there to be. I knew this wasn't a perfect story, but yeah, there was a few more things wrong with it that that did let this one down a little bit. Also, the fact that it is a fairly basic sort of story, and the fact that it doesn't necessarily at this point feel like a Tom Baker story. It very much still feels like a Jon Pertwee story. That I think is mostly because you've got UNIT. It's basically an Earth invasion story. And it's also, you've still got the same production team working on it from the same producer, most notably in Barry Letts, working on it, who worked throughout pretty much all of Jon Pertwee's series. So yeah, it does feel very much still like a Jon Pertwee story, just with silly Tom Baker put into it. But yeah, still a 7.5 out of 10 is definitely a good story. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe. Go onto my Twitter, into my Twitter. Please do that. It'll be awesome. Follow me on Twitter. And I'll see you guys in the next video.